Good afternoon. Welcome to the podcast for Rising Up with Robbie. It's good to be here again with you. As you probably noticed, I missed a couple of weeks, had COVID, but I'm much better now. I have a very special guest with me today. I have my sister, Diane Gordon, and she's going to talk to us about family care issues, challenges, what she's gone through over the last few years. What has she done to cope? So these are some of the things that she's going to help us out with. Diane, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So you've been through a long history of illness with me. And I guess the first started in 14, right?
Yes.
With a large wound on my bottom because of a spider bite. And that in itself was challenging. Right?
Very challenging. Yeah, because I almost lost you. So the emotional part of that was difficult to go through until you get the word that it's going to be okay. But then you had a very long recovery from that situation.
Yeah, I think I got septic that time as well, didn't I?
You absolutely did.
Okay.
Yes.
And sepsis is a fulminating blood infection from somewhere else. So it's very dangerous and it can be very problematic. And people die from sepsis. Then in 2019 was the big one. In 2019, I was sitting at Diane's table having dinner and went to the bathroom and threw up. Went home and said, I'm having severe pain, drove myself to the little ER in my town. Of course, they admitted me and they said I had pancreatitis. I'll let you take it from there, Diane.
Well, fortunately, the next day I didn't have to go to work and I was able to come check on you. And that's when I recognized that something was off kilter. And I guess I just raised so much cane that they shipped you out to one of the larger ERs in our area. And the doctor told me there that you were the most sick out of the 44 ICU patients they had. And that's when we discovered that you had the necrotic bowel issue. And the doctor told me if we did nothing, you would be dead by morning, but that he could try to save you. And the rest of that is history. But then ensued another long recovery that involved several weeks in rehab. You got double pneumonia during that time. So that was another struggle.
And I was septic then as well.
Yes.
And I also had acute bowel infection, pulmonary embolism,
DVT,
a large DVT. Yeah. So it was challenging, more for Diane than it was for me because I was out of it. So Diane's the one who had to deal with the stressors of, is she even going to make it? Is she going to make it out of surgery? Is she going to live? And I know
making decisions, making decisions about your care. That was very difficult because you don't know. I'm not a medical personnel. I'm a lay person. And it was very difficult to know if I was making the right decisions or the wrong decision. But at that point, one thing I've learned through this whole thing is like that video I sent you this morning, sometimes we have to stop and listen. And we have to listen to what we're hearing from a higher power. And somebody said to me then, I think it was one of the nurses in ICU, she said, God knows your heart. He knows your intent. So whatever decision you make, he knows you're making it with the right intentions in mind.
Right.
Didn't make it any easier. Didn't make it any easier though.
That was a hard area for you to be in. That was a tough situation.
Yes.
I remember she came up to me. I was pretty much in and out of it. And she came up to me and said, do you want a colostomy? Or do you want to go walk with Jesus and mom and dad? I think that's how you put it.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And I said, colostomy, I'm not ready to die. So it was an interesting episode.
Yes.
And then,
Yeah. And then
I fell and When did I fall?
January of
the end of
20.
January,
You
and
fell and shattered.
fell on my chin and shattered my jaws and had my jaws wired for about, what, 6 or 7 weeks?
No, about 3 weeks.
Was it 3? I don't
Yeah,
remember.
it was 3 weeks. No, about 3 weeks. Three
So I
and a
went,
half weeks.
God bless Diane. I went to her house and she fed me soup through a straw. She fed me slushies. She fed me anything she could find to feed me through a straw. But I made that one too. And then, and then
November of 20.
I fell again, and I was at the post office stepping off of a curb, and the podiatrist had put me in like little flip-flop shoes, and the flip-flop toe got caught in the curb, and I went down. Herein lies the problem with that. You can see I had a little skull fracture, a lot of bruising and problems with my face. But more importantly, I broke my right leg at the tibial plateau. And that's a dangerous place to break a leg because it can involve issues with healing, with getting better, with growing the femur like it's supposed to grow. So then again, I don't remember if I got septic.
No, you did not.
I did not.
You did not.
But
you
that
had
was
the broken leg, and then there was the sore on the big toe.
Yeah.
That's what complicated things. It wasn't the broken leg, because I, as the sister, the one who, you know, probably loves you more than anybody in the world, you know, I was the one who kept having to tell myself, it's no big deal. Her leg's going to heal. A sore heals. But the sore did not heal. And that ultimately led to amputation of a toe, amputation of a leg. And then the other leg, you had a sore that wouldn't heal. That led to amputation of 3 toes, and then ultimately amputation of the second leg.
Yeah, both
from a
feet
caregiver
develop.
Point of view, yes.
Both
Go
feet
ahead.
develop gangrene. And that's why I had to have the amputation, is the gangrene wouldn't heal. And it was some of the most painful, excuse me, painful pain I've ever had in my life. Diane will tell you I would sit up screaming, holding my leg. And I finally told him, I said, just take off the leg. It's too painful. When it came to taking off the right leg, that was a few months later, again with the gangrene, I told him just take it off. Although I struggled with that leg, and I actually talked to a physician and told him what'll happen if I don't have the amputation. He said the gangrene will progress. You'll be in a lot of pain. We'll keep you as pain-free as we can, but then you will die and you will lose the leg anyway. So that sort of picked my mind up, and I said, take the leg. Let's move on. It doesn't make it any less stressful, excuse me, for me or my family, because anytime you have a body part removed, it's something that you don't think you're ever going to get over, but you do. You do. And I know that Diane was sitting there and she'd hold my hand and she'd cry, and she would take care of me and do anything she needed to do for me. And I was so appreciative of that. But I always knew that she was there. I knew that she was always going to be there, kind of like God. I knew he was going to be there. So between
from a caregiver's point of view, you have to, and I don't always practice what I preach, you know that. You know, there's the emotional side of it, there's the psychological side of it, there's the physical side of it. You know, and as a caregiver who deeply loves somebody, the emotional side of it, I think, was the most difficult, especially when you lost the last leg, you know, because all I could think of was, this is my sister. We're only 17 months apart. And this was the kid I used to run around the backyard with. And we rode bikes down the street. And now she doesn't have any legs. And then it kicks in that you're like, oh my gosh, I'm old too. how am I going to be able to handle her with no legs? I'm, I'm in my mid 70s. I can't pick you up. And, it's all of that. And your brain goes a million miles an hour. The physical side of being a caregiver is you've got to practice self-care. And that's the part that I do not practice what I preach with that. Because when I'm stressed like that and emotional, I either eat too much or not enough. I exercise too much or not enough.
Yeah.
And I think that's the part of being a caregiver that I want people to understand. You've got to take care of yourself so you can take care of the person you love. And I am not good at that. I will admit that.
You may have to look at stepping back for a little while.
Yes.
You may have to look at going into a respite so that you can get some rest. Otherwise, you're not good to that person because you're so stressed out. It makes it difficult for you and it makes it difficult for the patient.
Well, and another thing I want to pass on is, as much as you want to be kind 100% of the time, your heart tells you that. There are times that as a caregiver, you get so frustrated. There were days that I would say, Robbie, you've got to pull it together. I can't, and I know you were sick and my heart knew that. And it wanted me to be sweet and kind. But those were the days I would just want to pull my hair out,
And she tried pulling mine out as well.
I did not. But, as a caregiver, you've got to take care of yourself physically. And it's tough to do. I mean, I've been through a lot with Robbie. Yeah, you've got to take care of yourself physically and emotionally. I've been a lot through Robbie, and this last time was a 16-month haul in one kind of medical facility or another. And we moved every month, every 2 months, whatever, to a nursing home, to a rehab, to an LTAC, to a whatever, and back and forth. And I was the one who was on the road running to make sure that I could get there every day or every other day. It's a long drive for me. So I wasn't taking care of myself physically, nor was I really handling it emotionally as well. That was a long 16 months. And I know it was for you as well. But as a caregiver, you got to practice self-care. And it's not easy to do. I would not tell anybody out there that this was an easy thing for me to do. I know it was way more difficult for you. But talking from the caregiver point of view, I've had her in my home taking care of her for 4 and 5 months at a time. That's difficult. But this time I knew I couldn't do it with her being a bilateral amputee. And that broke my heart. And I've apologized to her that I'm sorry I can't do it.
No apology necessary.
You can't let guilt consume you because you have to think logically of the danger to you, to me. What if I dropped you? What if I hurt my back? What if? So being a caregiver is a tough job. It's a tough job. After we lost our dad and I had dad for 20 years. I said, raising a parent and caring for somebody else is the hardest job you'll ever have, especially when it's someone you love.
Yeah, I would be interested in knowing how many of you have gone through some similar issues with caregiving and the stressors of it and the sleepless nights, the sleepless days, and the constant worry, constant stress. There's an area.
And the 3 o'clock in the morning phone calls from the SNF, or the 3 o'clock in the morning phone calls from you. They're not doing what they're supposed to do, or the food stinks, or and trying to figure out ways to handle that, especially right in the height of COVID, which is when this last incident happened. We're right in the throes of COVID. And so many times they wouldn't let me come see you.
That's right.
That was tough. That's tough. And so it's hard to trust. I would tell anybody it's really hard to trust, but sometimes you just have to use your faith and trust in the system.
Amen.
But it was tough.
Is there anything else you want to say about caregiving or the responsibilities, the challenges that you faced?
Well, when most of this happened, I was still working. So that was tough. That was tough, trying to balance a full-time job days off. You had surgery to be there to make sure that I was there. That complicated things a little bit. And I know there are millions of people out there who are in the same situation. That's when you have to rely. I had a good support system. I have a very good friend and another sister who were very supportive and as helpful as they could be. I guess advice, yeah, some nights only your pillow knows what you're feeling. Only your pillow sees your tears, because you can't always let those things out. At least I'm not so good at that. And you try to be strong for the person you love. But I would say take care of yourself emotionally. Take a break. Robbie's right. If you have to do respite, if you have to say to that person, if you don't need me, I won't be here for 3 or 4 days or whatever. I have things to tend to too. And know that that's going to be okay. And take care of yourself physically. I always said through this, and then losing John right in the middle of all of it, my rule was check one thing off a day and get 10 minutes of sunshine every day. If I could get outside and get my sunshine and spend some alone time talking to God and praying, and it made it better. And eat well. I don't eat well. Robbie will tell you I'm the worst eater in the whole world. But you got to practice self-care when you're a caregiver. You have to, because if you don't, you're no good to the other person. And so many people told me that. Diane, you're not taking care of yourself. You're not going to be any good to her. Well, and sure enough, during the jaw thing, when you broke your jaws, remember right in the middle of that, you were still wired together, and I spent a week in the hospital.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah,
Probably,
because I did not take.
Probably because of the stress and not taking care of yourself. Yeah, that's right. She scared us all. We thought she was going to die, to be honest. And so I got an opportunity to go through that stress, but she pulled through, and we're very happy that happened.
Yeah, me too. But it's been, so many layers. It's so multifaceted. Physical part of it, the emotional part of it, the psychological part of it. It's like nothing I can really even describe. It's kind of like Robbie, as sick as she's been. I kind of went through periods of grieving, even though she wasn't dead. I went through periods of grieving, and you grieve for what you want back. That makes sense. I remember cleaning out your house and looking at pictures and thinking, this is the sister I used to have, and I would sit and cry. But Robbie, I don't know, I told her I'm renaming her Phoenix because she has risen so many times.
By the grace of God.
So use her as an example if you're facing issues. Absolutely use her as an example. I always tell her every setback is a setup for a comeback. Every setback, you got to look at it as a setup for a comeback, and she has come back every time, and for that I'm eternally grateful.
Yeah, me too. It's good to be here on earth again and to be alert. I know you remember the midnight calls when I was out of my head and I made some weird comments to you, and you didn't know whether to get in your car, come see me, call the nurse. It was a crazy time.
I think some of the nurses put me on caller ID.
Yeah, probably did. Well, Diane,
caregiving, sometimes you feel like it's a thankless job because that person's so sick. And, until that person kind of comes back, you don't know how that person feels about what you did, or did they appreciate it, or did they? I mean, I know Robbie does, but we've been through it, and hopefully we don't go through it again. And to any caregiver out there, just take care of yourself. Take care of yourself and take breaks. Take breaks.
Absolutely. Well, Diane, I appreciate you joining me today, and you had some great insights that I didn't even know about. So I thank you very much for your sharing those experiences with us.
Pleasure.
And my job, if I can connect with one of you out in the public and help you cope or help you make your life a little better, I've done my job. So make sure you leave comments and questions. I will answer them. I will answer them as quickly as possible, usually the next day. So please let me know how you're doing. Let me know if you're a caregiver. Let me know some of the anxieties that you go through. I would be very interested in hearing those.
And one more thing, as a caregiver, find someone to lean on.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I'm a pretty independent person, and I think I can carry the weight of the world around by myself 24/7. But caregivers out there, you can't. You need to find a support network, even if it's just one person you can call. You've got to have a support network. And that's hard because everybody else has their own busy lives as well. But get a support network. Like I say, we have a sister who lives a good distance away, but I had a good friend who lives close. And get yourself a support network. You can't do it by yourself.
And you can't rely on the patient to give you that support, because we typically don't have it.
Absolutely cannot. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But reach out to Robbie. Robbie, like I say, I'm renaming her Phoenix. We may have to change the name of the podcast. But reach out to her if you're struggling, because she is such an inspiration. She is such an inspiration. Not just to you people out there, but to me as well. Watching her struggle and come back every time just gives me more hope.
You got to fight. If you want to live, you've got to fight. And it's not easy, because there's a hurdle every time you turn around.
Oh, gosh, yes.
But realize that you can make it through. You can. And people are out there to help you. But it's important, as Diane said, for you to get a support network, somebody you can just pick up the phone and talk to.
And cry to and scream at. And yeah. Important. Don't try to carry the ball all by yourself. None of us are superhuman. I think I am.
You think you are. You are.
But none of us are superhuman.
No. Well, thank you for joining the podcast today. Again, as I said, please leave your comments and your questions. I am very interested. Diane, I thank you so much. As I told you earlier, I've learned some things today that I didn't realize, because we haven't really talked about this in depth until today. So I appreciate your feedback. I appreciate your candidness. I appreciate you. And remember, people, to never give up. That's my mantra. You can always, always make it through.
And what was it, Marianne? Was it Marianne told you always get up, show up, get up, dress up, show up.
Show up. And never give up. And never give up. So you can do this. You've got the strength to do it, and get the support networks you need.
And if you don't think you have the strength, reach out to Robbie.
Oh, yeah.
When you're questioning your strength, reach out to Robbie. I am of sound body. I have been blessed, but I've been through it. And I would tell you, when you're struggling and you don't think you can do it, reach out to Robbie.
Oh, thank you, Diane. I'd be happy to help anyone that I can.
I know you would.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
That's why
again.
Everybody loves you.
Oh,
that's why everybody loves you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Oh. That's nice to hear. Again, thank you for joining us today, and look forward to seeing you next week. On the 22nd, we're going to have Mark Fucarelli, one of the Boston bombing survivors who lost his legs, and he's going to come and talk to us about a multitude of things. So,
and what date is that, Robbie?
The 22nd. That
would be
month? Of
June.
Month. June. Yeah. So it should be very interesting. Mark's going to talk to us about some political things that he's run into. He's going to talk to us about the criminal trials. He's going to talk to us about his challenges, his expectations, and how they were tough on him, because he had great expectations. So pay attention, and I look forward to seeing you on the 22nd. We will have another podcast next week. I'm going to probably have Stephanie on, who's a wound care nurse, because that's something else that I'm fighting is a wound. So we'll have Stephanie on to talk about wound care and prevention because they don't have to happen. Thank you again. Remember to get up, show up. I forgot the rest.
Get up, dress up, show up.
But never give up.
Give up.
Never give up. Thank you so much, Diane.
Okay.
Bye-bye.